This is Charleston's retirement coach, Brandon Bowen.
Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for downloading. Most importantly, thanks for listening. This is Charleston's Retirement Coach Podcast with Brandon Bowen. It's all powered by Bowen Wealth. You can get more when you visit bowenwealth.com, and you can find that and all the information in the show notes. My name is Mark Owens. Now, let's get to the show. Brandon, fascinating study from Fox Business. It revealed that Americans rank not saving for retirement as their biggest regret. When you hear that, are you shaking your head going, I get it? Or are you saying, no, not so much? What say you?
So not saving for retirement, huh?
Yeah, biggest regret.
Yeah, I would say the people that we talk with on a day-to-day basis here in the office, it's 55 and up a lot of times. So they're not really saying, okay, I wish I saved, but maybe started saving sooner.
Yeah.
Even if you then unfold a $2 million portfolio in front of me, it's funny how that works out. But a lot of people kind of regret, man, I wish I would have gotten serious sooner. Mm-hmm. And you start comparing, of course, to your friends or whoever you might know. But I encourage you, hey, what you have saved, it's everything to you. It is your hard work. So do not worry about other people. Let's put a plan together specific for you and your goals and what you have saved so you can achieve that perfect retirement in your mind.
You said something there. You said people sometimes compare what I've saved to how my friends, my neighbors are doing. That's not fair. We should never compare what we've done compared to somebody else, because you say it all the time. Everybody's plan is different.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard the saying, comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes, sir.
Have you heard that?
Yes,
yeah.
Sir.
So in every area in life, you start thinking, well, I'm not blank. I don't have that. Stop that. I firmly believe God has blessed each one of us here. We have so many gifts and abilities and, loving spouse potentially or kids or grandkids or whatever. You've got a great situation there, and I want to help you thrive.
843-890-2400. Want to make sure you get to retirement with zero regrets. Let Brandon and the team help you build that retirement plan. And Brandon, if you were to ask me, do I have any regrets? And I will say I have one. I'm in my late 40s.
Okay.
I regret not appreciating having a full head of hair because that is long gone. Never going to see it again.
Hey, I also heard God put hair on the heads that were not perfect, and the bald ones are perfect head. Mine is a mess underneath my hair. So you probably have a much better looking head than I do. So yeah.
Imagine a box and stick your thumb out of it. That's what I look like. Okay.
I see all the hats you have in the back of your trunk.
Yes, sir. I'm a hat
You've
guy.
got like 30, a repertoire. Yes. You can just walk in, bam, pop one. It doesn't matter.
Your golf hats, your football hats, your baseball hats. I'm always prepared. Always
you don't want a sunburn.
No, thank you. Thank you. Bowenwealth.com to meet the team and see all the services they have to offer. So let's continue talking about building income, also the fears in retirement. There was a Morningstar study that said that those who retire at the age of 65 have a 45% chance of running out of money. However, by waiting until the age of 70, that chance goes down to 28%. So working longer can help you save more and could increase your Social Security check. But Brandon, what if someone wants to retire early or maybe they're pushed out of work? How do you help those worries about running out of money in retirement?
It is with a plan, Mark. That is the short and simple answer there. It's with a plan. But that stat you just said, it was that Morningstar said a 45% chance of running out of money. Is that what I heard?
That's it. Yeah, for the adults who retire at the age of 65.
Can you a 50-50 chance of being broke? That is, I want everyone to hear that, like a 50-50 chance. No wonder people go like, you know what? I'm not going to take this exit right here. I'm not going to retire right now because I might run out of money. That is a fear. That is the number one fear that we see every week, day in and day out when people come in. It's running out of money. Number two, a market crash. So it's kind of like a simple thought of like, okay, would you build $1 million house without a blueprint, Mark?
No.
What about a $2 million house without a blueprint?
I wouldn't build a $200,000 house without a blueprint.
I know. But I see people trying to, dip their toe in or even actually start retirement without a living, breathing plan that they can go back to and refer back to as life happens and as the market happens. and things like that. That's crazy, right? So yes, your stat there, you know, the longer people work, you work till 70, sure. I mean, if you keep working, it just gets easier and easier and easier because yes, you're, you know, another year of earned income, maybe another year of Social Security contributions, of not drawing down your portfolio. So it just gets easier the longer you work. So what we do when you come in and sit down with me and we have our first appointment, it's a casual conversation. I start to get to know you and a feel for what you're hoping to happen. Okay. And what I like to do, I say, hey, you know what? Let me build a plan for this first moment where you're considering it. Because if I can make it work then all the latter points that you're contemplating, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
You know? So let me try 62. Or let me try 65. You know, you're 64 right now. You're thinking maybe next year, I don't know if we can do it, honey. It's going to be tough. And so let me try that one, right? Let me try the very first point that you're thinking. I would say 80% of people that come into the office, you know, they have viewed work as a means to an end, right? It's what we had to do. We had to do that to grow our pile of money. And now we don't want to stay there any minute longer than we have to because we want to start enjoying life.
Right.
We can all think of people who, you know, worked their whole life and passed away
without enjoying the fruits of their labor.
Oh my gosh. Not even, you know, maybe it's like the year before, or maybe that very first year of retirement. Okay.
Yeah.
That's heartbreaking. So what I want to do is I want to show you, hey, when it makes sense, let's do it. Let's hit that eject button or take the next exit.
You know, that's fascinating that you said that a couple seconds ago. You said a 50% chance of running out of money in retirement if you retire at a certain age without the right plan. It would be like walking up to the gate about to get on an airplane and they say, all right, before we board, just want to let you know, there's a 50% chance that we're going to get there safely. You would turn around. You would rip your boarding ticket up, and you get back in your car, and you go, you know, I'll drive. Make the drive to wherever I need to go.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it.
A 50-50 chance of making it.
Right.
You know, because, you know, think of running out of money. What that looks like is you're moving in with your kids, you know, or you are living on Social Security. I mean, there's some people that have to do that, right? But that is not what I envision. For if you are my client, you know, the plan that we put together, we're going to be planning on crashes. Let me give you a quick story here. I've got some clients from Mount Pleasant here. He was 68 when he came in. She was 65. They had saved $1.8 million. They had done a great job. They had saved 1.8, and I'm sitting, and they're still working, and I'm sitting here going, okay, they are either blowing a lot of money every month, you know, or he's scared to retire.
Yeah.
I knew it. Right. So we started talking and he was like, yeah, Brandon, you know what? I'm trying to hit that $2 million mark. I think with 2 million, we will be good to go. And I was like, well, you know, why are you still working? You know, and I got real with him here and she's being real quiet because I'm reading her too. But he goes, you know, Brandon, the markets, I mean, I think they're about to crash. When these markets crash, that could cause me to run out of money. I clearly remember 2008. He said, and so all of these things, super concerned. And I said, how do you feel when you see these 2 and 3 week sell-offs in the market? You see Fox Business, CNBC, and it's red arrows, and it's like they're talking about all these bubbles popping and all this. And I said, how do you feel? And he's like, I have a tense, my chest compressed. I'm checking my balance. Yeah. It's like, I mean, I can't even function hardly. You know, and I'm like, that is no way to. And so all he knows is I'm just going to keep working. I'm just going to keep working here, right? And so you listening, you might be in the same situation. You might have saved $1, $2, $3 million. I like to say you've won the game, but you're still going all in. Okay, you're still playing your whole hand. You're still pushing all your chips in, risking it, chancing it here to try to keep. You still have that growth mindset with your portfolio. I guess, and one good thing is. He is clearly, this client here, he was clearly understanding sequence of return risk. And so what that is in our industry here, that is the order in which you make or lose some of your balance there, right? You make or lose money. That is the sequence of return, okay? And that is random. It's, you know, we don't know. We've had a great 12-year run, but that also says that, hey, we're kind of due for a sustained sell-off or a correction. That's why they call it a correction, okay? So, these sequences of return, it doesn't really make that big of a difference while you're working. Okay. When you're not pulling any money out because, it goes down, you're contributing, you're buying stuff on sale. It's okay. Retirement is down the road, right? So it's not that big of a deal. Where it becomes a huge deal with massive implications is when you are pulling money out. Okay. When you have to pull money out for retirement. Okay. And for that income stream. So now let's say we have a 20, 30, 40+% crash in the market, but you needed a 4 or 5% drawdown. Well, now that just turned into maybe a 10% draw. You're making huge withdrawals, and that's going to prevent it from coming back up. So that is the big problem. So what I want you to start thinking about, you listening, Mark, have you ever gone into one of these We Buy Gold shops or pawn shops? Have you gone? Yeah. And so I imagine, because I've seen them on TV, they go in there and it's kind of like, hey, how much will you give me for this? Right? Yeah. You go into a pawn shop, you go to the dealer and you're like, okay, how much will you give me for this?
Yeah.
What I want you listening to think about is almost like, think of me as an income dealer. Okay. I am your income dealer. I want you to come in with your portfolio and go, hey, Brandon, how much income will you give me? How much, what is this worth? Right? You like that? So you come in and it's like, okay, I have 1.8. How much income is that worth? And I'll say, okay, great job. Number one. Number two, give me a week. Let's set up a second meeting and I will come back with a thoughtful, comprehensive, diversified income plan for you. And it happens almost every time, Mark. People are blown away at the amount of income we can generate.
Right.
Okay. When you take a look at this portfolio and take a look at those investments and you start swapping them out for things that are driven by income focused investments. And I'm talking, dividend portfolios, dividend stocks, maybe ETFs, some of the best annuities that are out there, bond funds, right? Things that are their goal is nice, steady income. It blows people away, right? After we put that plan together for them, they had around about a $200,000 income stream from that portfolio. And he was like, oh my gosh.
And he had no clue. No clue he had that opportunity.
Right. He was like, that's like a raise from what I'm getting at work here. Like I'm sitting here holding on to work, thinking we can't afford it. But now my portfolio is my employer. We can actually retire now. He's closing in on 70. And it's like, oh my gosh.
You just found time for him.
Found time. I mean, I was just going to say, they started looking at vacations and what can we do? Can we take the kids and the grandkids? What can we do now? It's like I'm still employed. My bank thinks I'm still employed because this steady income's coming in. But they now have all this time on their hands.
843-890-2400. Again, 843-890-2400 to reach out to Brandon and the team at Bowen Wealth to begin this conversation. You're proud of what you've worked hard for your entire life. You have a good savings. You have a pension. You're lucky to have that pension, a 401k, an IRA. You've got at least $500,000 or more for your retirement. Let's sit down. Let's have this conversation. And I love how you said that. Bring me your portfolio and say, what will you give me for this? What can you make? What can we do with this? That's when Brandon really goes to work. But it begins with a phone call. And we have a team member standing by right now to talk to you. 843-890-2400. Brandon, how often does that happen? Someone gives you that portfolio and says, where am I? How am I doing? How often do you find out that they're doing so much better than they realized?
Yeah, almost every time.
Yeah.
Almost every time. And so, like I said, it is a bit of a surprise. They're like, I didn't know that it could generate, something like that. They had been thinking about maybe just a 4% drawdown rule, something they've always heard, or just they're like just sipping on or picking at this portfolio, scared to touch it because we might need it later, right? So it's always, I love it when I surprise them with that number. And it's like they just lean back in their chair, they look at each other, just starting to smile.
But
like
they're probably thinking to themselves, why did we not make this phone call 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Yep.
Okay, you just mentioned something there. Again, that number, 843-890-2400. Give the team a call. Or if you can't talk right now, of course, feel free to text at any time. 843-890-2400. You mentioned the 4% rule. And those who are getting serious about retirement, those into retirement, it's a phrase, it's a term that we hear a lot. So define that for me exactly. What is the 4% rule?
So the 4% rule was written back in the 90s, okay? And the guy who wrote it says that if you had a 60-40 portfolio, that you should be able to pull out 4% per year and not run out of money, Okay. That's a simple explanation of it. And so they would run it against different scenarios of sequences of return. And they said 4% was enough, was not too much. That was a good drawdown. That's what they thought back in the 90s. And remember, that was the Clinton years, this massive run up in the market. Stocks and bonds were great during the 90s. And so they said 4% back then.
So this has been around for a minute. Some people love the 4% rule. Some people don't like it. I do want you to hear this clip. This is from economist Michael Finka. He tells The Street that for most adults, the rule is too conservative for human nature.
I think people should decide if they want to live better in their late 60s and 70s. When you do have the physical capabilities and the cognitive capabilities to enjoy your life more. I mean, there's not a whole lot of 95-year-olds that are going on world vacations. And the fact is that you can't enjoy it as much in your 90s as you could in your 60s or 70s. So I think you should have the power to be able to choose the slope of your spending. And in reality, it does appear that people do spend less as they get older.
Okay, Brandon, what's your take? Do you agree with what Michael Finka says there? What's your approach to the 4% rule?
Completely agree with what he said there. I would say the 4% rule, that I would put that with the do-it-yourselfers that don't know any better. Honestly, they come in and maybe they're engineers. If you're an engineer, but you got your spreadsheet, you got your stuff, and Brandon, I'm going to just pull out 4% and I'm going to be fine, right? And I'm fine with that, but I'm like, I just know it can be so much better. Okay. He also, Finka also said something about like not traveling when you're 90. Can I just speak for a minute? Like, so I did back in the summer here, I took my family, we did a 7-day Mediterranean cruise. Nice. Okay. Went over there, actually 3 days early into Rome. And I took my girls, they're now 17 and 15. It's unbelievable. But 17 and 15, we went there. I wanted to acclimate to the time zone and stuff. And so we're, for the first 2 days, you're pushing through, right? Cause you're tired. You didn't sleep good on the plane. You get over there. We're doing St. Peter's Basilica. We did the stairs all the way up to the top. Then the next day we're doing the Colosseum, right? Going up the stairs in the Colosseum, just looking down, and when the Romans would have all the fights and stuff in there. My girls they were so into it. They appreciated, just the stories there of what our guide was telling us was great. And then we get on the cruise, right? The first day was Rome. Second day was down to Amalfi, Naples. We got off there, went over to Capri. I just can't imagine a 90-year-old trying to climb those hills in Capri, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the stairs at Amalfi, it's like you're going, excuse me. I mean, they're tight quarters. It's two ways. People are coming down. You're going up. And all these stairs, I mean, like, it's just gorgeous walking around there, and just the food, being able to travel. And what I'm saying is, like, that is what I envision the first 10 years of your retirement.
Don't they call that the go-go years?
Yes. Yeah, the go-go years. And then the slow-go is the next 10, and then the no-go. No-go.
We're just sitting on the front porch.
The get off my lawn.
The get off my lawn years.
Yes. Yeah, there you go. So that's the go-go years, right? Yeah, it's these first 10 years. So if you're thinking of 4% drawdown, it's like you're having to eat with this little baby spoon out of your portfolio. You're just taking a little bit. And so I've seen it with my own clients, and we position their plan for this to have these first 10 years of, hey, we have the pedal down. The cruise is locked in on, 100 miles an hour. I mean, you're feeling great, looking great. You're physically able to do these things. So we want the plan to be factoring that in. And then as you start closing in on 70, now we hit 70 and we're maybe just doing one trip a year. Maybe the kids are now coming to you, or we're doing something a little, right? So the expenses start tapering a little bit. You might then have something paid off.
Sure.
By that point, the house or all your debt or something like that, right? So the budget is going to also be factored in here, our expenses and, debts and becoming debt free, things like that. So I think I know that you deserve much better than a 4% rule. So let me tell you a quick story here about a living, breathing plan that we put together for some clients from James Island. They came over 3 years ago, came into the office, been listening to the show. We've been doing this show for almost 8 years now. They've been listening for a while. They came in and they had saved $1.6 million, but they wanted about $120,000 from that portfolio. Okay. That's like a 7% rule. Okay.
Right.
They were like, Brandon, you ever heard of the 7% rule? Because that's what we want. And I was like, where'd you hear that one? And I was like, well, I mean, maybe let's take a look. Let's see what you got here. And right. So we went to work. And so first thing we did was we maximized their Social Security benefits. They did not know about a spousal benefit. Okay. He had a nice one and she did not work outside of the house very much. So they were like, she's only getting like $300. And I was like, oh shoot, I'm about to blow them away here, because they did not know that she was entitled to half of his. Okay. Once she reached her full retirement age. So they were loving that. It was an extra $1,200 a month there for Social Security. So the Social Security benefit totaled about $60,000 between the two of them. Okay. So we had that. Then with that $1.6 million portfolio, we were able to diversify those strategies and those positions there to achieve right at a 7% drawdown.
So we got it.
Yes, we were able to get it. We were defensive there. It was ready, defensive positions, I would say ready for crashes, Now, some stuff did have some protections in place. Other things were volatile or are volatile. So, but you got to keep some money in the game, right? We've got to keep some money in the portfolio, in the market there. That's why I really, really like our market guard portfolios that give us indicators of when to hold, when to sell, when to re-enter, right? If these portfolios don't like what's going on in the market, it can proactively start sitting some cash on the sidelines to maybe be better prepared for a potential sell-off, to maybe have some dry powder when it's a better time to get back in the market. So we have strategies for all kind of, whatever you want for your money there. So we were able to build a beautiful portfolio for them. And so that, with this plan in place, that helped them achieve that confidence and peace of mind that they were missing. And it was all a result of that planning process. This is kind of a funny story to end on. So then they go do a trip. And so they finally did one of those Viking River cruises. Oh, yeah. Right? I'm not knocking on the Viking River cruises, but they went there and they came back and they said, Brandon, everyone was so old on this cruise. They were old. There was no entertainment at nighttime. Everybody went to bed.
Shut it down at 8:00.
Yes.
Dinner's at 4:30.
Yes. And when we got to an excursion, everybody got on a van and they just drove people around. Nobody was walking around. They're young, right? They are ready to do these things. And I told them about my Mediterranean cruise. And so they're looking at that one for the next one. But anyway, so yes, these first 10 years of retirement, let's go. I want to give you that ticket to do those things that you've been putting off and take the family, kids and grandkids, and then you've got to come back and tell me your story.
Thanks for listening to Charleston's Retirement Coach Podcast with Brandon Bowen. To learn more, visit bowenwealth.com and join Brandon for his radio show, Charleston's Retirement Coach, Saturdays at 11 a.m. on 94.3 WSC.
Financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if J. Brandon Bowen is licensed in your state, please call 843-203-2030. J. Brandon Bowen is an investment advisor representative of Bowen Wealth, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. J. Brandon Bowen is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Bowen Wealth, LLC, insurance licensed in South Carolina. Market Guard is a registered investment advisor with the SEC and provides model portfolios only to Impact Partnership Wealth. Market Guard makes no implied warranties or representations and is not liable for any data presented.